I've spent weeks, actually maybe it's even like 2 months, anticipating that this morning would be spent inside this building, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, doing the oral arguments for my appeal against the EMMYs. NATAS versus MSDI has become NATAS versus Jason Goodman, in which I've alleged that I was denied due process, denied my rights, denied a fair trial, all to do with a conspiracy between the plaintiff, the judge, and a vexatious non-party. There's something interesting written on this building. See, that we're here in this is like the New York Justice Complex, right? We've got the appellate court right there, the U.S. District Court right there, and New York Superior Court. You know, that's where Donald Trump was having all of his state court stuff, right? So I haven't really done anything inside this building, the district court. All of my district court lawsuiting stuff has happened in that owl-looking building behind there, which is part of this justice complex. And justice is complex, right? They, I think, specifically make it complex just to make it easier for them to gum up the works, because I say all the time, and I don't want people to discount this when I say I'm not an attorney. Anything I say about this could be wrong. Nothing I ever say is legal advice. Nobody should do anything based on anything that I say apart from becoming a sponsor of the show. Odyssey has extended their use of Stripe. So if you still want to sponsor on Odyssey, people are telling me their Odyssey sponsorships are still good. And thanks to everybody who is sponsoring on Odyssey, they've separately, wow, there's a lot of heat coming out of this. What are they doing down there? It's a little bit nice. But people at Odyssey have already told me that even after they change payment processors, you're still going to have access to the content, the sponsor exclusive content on there for the month that you pay for. So thanks to everybody who's sponsoring on Odyssey. Thanks to everybody who's sponsoring on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. And of course, thanks to my long-standing and oldest sponsors who've been with me since the beginning on subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. This is an example of, this is my fault. I made a mistake. The docket for the appellate court, they've switched it. It's ACMS, I think. And then the one for the district court, that's ECF. So it's these two disparate systems. I mean, we hear from Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency that some of this stuff is so old. He's going in there with, 18-year-old guys who are autistic and staying awake 80 hours a week because they're excited to work for Elon Musk, but they're finding inefficiencies in the software. The way these courts work is like that. It's these disparate, crazy systems, but let me not blame it. I'm just pointing out there's a difference there that I wasn't really entirely familiar with, and when it showed up on the docket telling me, hey, oral arguments scheduled, first it said proposed. And I was like, what? Why this public posting about something that's proposed? Why don't you think about it, and then when you decide, tell us what's going to happen? But it said proposed, so I called. There's a number there for the case manager who's like a clerk, And what I found is, for whatever reason, the appellate court, I don't know, they're just a lot more helpful, a lot more verbose when you call. So I called, and the woman explained, oh no, that's just proposed. When it's finalized and they decide, they'll put something else there. All right. So then it said, boom, it's decided. And it's no longer proposed, it's scheduled. And I said, okay, good. So I'm pretty sure I called back, and Oh yeah, no. So then it was scheduled. So then after that, they put something else on there that was like, hey, if anybody wants to withdraw, you have until this date to enter your withdrawal. And I called because I was like, well, wait a minute, what is this? Are they telling me to withdraw? And she said, no, that's just standard stuff. See, this is a nice dog, but you can't, it's just inherently impolite to come to a New York City park and take your dogs off leash, because it's not the way it's supposed to be done, and it's just rude. Everybody's got to respect everybody else and the rules, so dogs should stay on leash. And that lady looks at me like I'm mean. That reminds me of another thing we got to talk about. The Finest Unfiltered podcast had a great episode this morning. I'm frequently listening to that in the morning, particularly when there's a development with stupid Eric Adams, because those guys, Eric Dim and John McCarty, they know more about it, and combined with Sal, those guys know more about it than anybody, so you always find out good stuff. And Eric brought up this really important point, the difference between being nice and being good. See, that lady probably thinks I'm not nice. She might be really polite, let you pet her dogs, and be very, she probably would dislike it if I told her she was a fucking bitch. But the truth is, she doesn't respect the other people in New York. She's not a good person. A good person would keep their dog on leash, not say, oh, well, my dog is not going to hurt anybody, so I can break the rules, because then where's the next person who says that, and the next person who says that, and then the next thing you know, somebody who can't train their dog, it bites a little kid, or it bites somebody else's dog. You can't do that. Or her dog gets bit by some other dog because she's not controlling it. Anyway, forget about that. The point is, when I called the clerk, I was like, well, what is this? Are they telling me to withdraw? She said, no, that's just normal standard language. But see, there was something on there, on the docket, on the ACMS or AMCS, whatever it is, docket for the appellate court, that was just kind of like, I see it now, but I didn't see it then. The point is, Sunday, after spending Friday and Saturday, I've been more than just Friday and Saturday. I've been writing an opening statement for this and getting all the documents together, studying the case. Hasn't been a complete waste, by the way. It's amazing. There's things I'm learning about my own case from years ago that I didn't even know until now. So I'm not angry, because this wasn't wasted. I'm just hopeful that talking to everybody about this can help people understand some of the problems with court and so-called justice here in the United States. But anyway, so Sunday morning I woke up, and I'm like getting my dry cleaning in order to go to the thing in a suit and all this. And so I was like, well, let me just make absolute sure of the time, because I was like, I thought I saw somewhere it said it starts at 10 a.m., but then when I went back to the thing on the docket, it didn't have a time. So I was like, let me find the calendar. So I did. I found like an interactive online calendar for the court, the official, here's what's happening on Monday. And my case was listed there, but it said on submission. And I had understood that I would have 5 minutes. And I was preparing it. And I was so different AI. What the hell? Over here now there's a problem. Did we lose the broadcast? Is this more criminals trying to prevent me from... It's full signal. Why would it get lost? I hope I didn't just get cut off. Do people still have me? That's one of the most annoying things that happens. Anyway, it said on submission, and every single AI told me that on submission means no, you're not going to have oral arguments. They're just going to basically make a ruling based on the submitted filings. And I was like, what? What the hell is the point of requesting oral arguments and posting a thing there that says, yeah, your oral arguments are scheduled, but here's this little extra note that says no oral arguments for you. So anyway, I titled this thing, what did I title it? No oral arguments for you. Is the Second Circuit corrupt? I'm not saying that it is corrupt, but this doesn't sound good for me. Like, I don't think they decided it in my favor. That's my guess. That would be my guess. And also, I did call the clerk first thing this morning and confirm. She said, yeah, 100%. No oral arguments. And everybody I asked, it's like, well, what if I go there? It's like, they're not going to change their mind. I mean, yeah, sure, you could go there if you want, but you're not going to be allowed to say anything, and it will have no impact on the thing. The other thing that's interesting about the Second Circuit is that, of course, it's made up of all the same judges that were just in the district court before. For instance, I think in 2022, oh yeah, I wanted to tell everybody about this. I figured out something important about the Felix Seder case that I didn't understand previously. See, this is the problem with not being an attorney and nothing I say being legal advice or anything that anybody should take any action based on. Speaking of Doge, GSA, General Services Administration. But people might remember, if you've been watching for a while, when I went down to that courthouse to talk to Felix Seder back in like June or July 24, I was asking him about Judge Caproni being on that case, on his case, the city of Almaty, Kazakhstan versus Felix Seder. And he was confused, Snyder was confused. I thought they were lying. They still might be, but I was confused because I'm not an attorney and legal stuff is confusing. In fact, if you even have an attorney friend and you tell him, oh, I watched this guy on YouTube and he had an appeal and this and that happened and what do you think? The first thing that they would be likely to say is, oh, well, I'm not an appellate lawyer, so I don't know. Sounds annoying when you're not an attorney and you ask your attorney friends or your doctor friends, you ask them some advice outside of their area of specialty and they don't want to answer. Well, you learn little things like this, that the words on submission mean don't go there today. I'm saying there's a lot of detailed nuance to some of these things that might not make sense to you if you are not a specialist in it. That's the old police station. Remember that? I became aware of this thing because either this or, I think the thing right across the street was the Oddfellows headquarters. So that's the police station from back in the day. See, it says even on there, police department. And this, right across the street, is the Oddfellows' old headquarters. You can still even see the 3 links of their chain embedded in the stonework up there. And you know what? There was something important written on the, I forgot to point it out. written on the courthouse. Do I want to walk back over there and see it? I don't want to walk through that dead radio zone. But it said, like, good, justice is the pillar of good government. And they're not giving you justice over there. They're lying and cheating. The courts have been captured. It's a huge problem. But so the thing that I figured out about the Felix Seder case, so he had Judge Nathan on that case. And remember, it's the city of Almaty, Kazakhstan, and the ABT Bank, which through some not really well-defined arrangement, that guy Kenes Rakashev sort of forcefully took over as the director or the chairman or something of that bank. This was all discussed in testimony at Felix Seder's trial. Kenes Rakashev is the guy who meets with Joe Biden and Hunter Biden in Georgetown, and he's photographed and he's included in James Comer's timeline. Look at that. When's the last time you saw a roll of film on a place? But Rakashev, he sends 142,000. This is in February of 2014, before the coup in Ukraine. And Rakashev is very involved in natural gas and energy in Kazakhstan. I don't know. But anyway, Judge Allison Nathan, who looks like a dude to me, she was the judge on that case. And I thought that Caproni was on the case at some point, because when I was searching for things having to do with Felix Seder and Judge Caproni, I came across this order that Judge Caproni had written in that case, demanding that the plaintiff, which was Boyce Schiller, who, remember, Hunter Biden was an attorney at Boyce Schiller at the time that he met with, this guy's driving like crazy. Look at this. Almost seemed like he was going to crash into me. Hunter Biden was an attorney with Boyce Schiller in January and February of 2014. We should check the exact date that Hunter Biden leaves Boyce Schiller, but that's the firm representing Almaty, Kazakhstan, and ABT Bank, the interests of Kenes Rakashev in this Hunter Biden, or in this Felix Seder case. So what I discovered was Caproni did write this order. I found it again, but she wasn't even the judge on the case. So what the hell is she doing? She's coming in there. I've never seen anything like this. There might still be more about it that I don't fully understand. But Caproni comes in there and writes an order. Here's an electric UPS truck. She writes an order demanding that the plaintiff show cause as to why they didn't instruct the court that this was a related case to some other case, and why it shouldn't be, I don't know, something very asshole order from Judge Caproni, which is basically every order she ever writes. And right away, Boyce Schiller comes back with a response to the show cause saying, hey, this local rule, it says that you have to promptly alert the court of a related case, not that it has to be simultaneous with the filing. And this is one day ago, and we were still trying to decide if we felt it was related or not. They ultimately decided that it was related, but the case stayed with Judge Nathan. So this is a little weird. I don't know exactly what that's all about, but it's kind of Judge Caproni's MO to make a big deal about something, yell at a person, and be rude in her statements and her orders and her things that she says in the courtroom, but then ultimately that thing happens anyway. I don't necessarily understand that, but again, I've been forced to be exposed to this vile, corpulent creature for so long that I'm beginning to learn some of her, disgusting predilections and how she operates and the weird things that she does. Even if you hate someone, you learn their habits. Here's the future of garbage under Eric Adams. So anyway, Boies Schiller is arguing to leave the case in the hands of Judge Nathan, which they do, and then Caproni goes away. She doesn't do anything else on that case, but it's just super weird that Caproni's getting involved at all in something to do with Felix Seder, particularly given that she was directly involved in the signing of the super secret cooperation agreement with Andrew Weissman, who says that Caproni is her mentor and he doesn't know Felix Seder, even though he mentioned him 11 times in his book, worked with him for years in the FBI, and told Robert Mueller to bring him in as a cooperating witness. This all seems quite strange to me, but in 2022, Judge Allison Nathan is appointed by Joe Biden to the Second Circuit Appellate Court. So now she's in there. I don't know. I mean, if she's doing unjust things, and I don't know that she is. I don't know very much at all about Judge Allison Nathan, other than she looks 100% like a dude to me. That's my opinion. She might hate it, but whatever. Allison could even be a man's name, right? Don't they make transmissions? Here's a bunch of cops looking at a tree. Yeah, that's good. So Judge Nathan got appointed to the Second Circuit. Then the case got reassigned to Judge Colt, where it is today. So my point is, all these people, I'm looking at you, Professor Turley. He's like, oh, this is outrageous. Now, we're not dealing with the district court and the Second Circuit in this particular instance that Jonathan Turley is talking about with Trump and Judge Merchan. But all of this, like, oh, this is outrageous. He's going to have to take it to appeal. Like, why do you expect anything different is going to happen on appeal? That's why I'm feeling kind of dejected about this morning's letdown. I had hoped that at least if I could go in there and speak through the oral arguments section, that the judges would not be able to deny that this was an absolute abomination, abuse of the Constitution, not just for me. Forget about me. Caproni has made a ruling about my parody image of the EMMYs statue holding a medical illustration of a COVID-19 molecule that impacts everybody's rights going forward in the future. Anybody at all who wants to make a parody of something could get sued by somebody who says, ooh, that's a copyright infringement. And then they could point to, I don't know what we're looking at there. They could point to this ruling and say, see, here's a case where something that's clearly parody was ruled to be a copyright infringement. Judge Caproni is damaging the First Amendment. She has damaged the First Amendment. This thing needs to be overturned. Now, see, this was a debate the other day. Somebody said all Microsoft stores have closed. And then I knew that I had seen this one. So what is this? Maybe it's Microsoft's office and not a store. But why do they have it on ground level like that in this retail shopping area with Puck? Isn't that Midsummer Night's Dream? Why does it get a whole building? I've never really explored that. But anyway, that was an interesting little wrinkle that I discovered. Judge Caproni wasn't ever presiding over that case, but it seems strange to me that a judge who isn't presiding comes along and issues an order in a case. I mean, who knows about that? How often does that happen? It seems weird to me. That's going to require a little bit more, I don't know, investigation, contemplation. We got to think about that. But anyway, it just doesn't seem like these Second Circuit judges are going to say, oh, you know what, Jason, after 4 years, you're right. This was a gross violation of your rights, totally trampled on the Constitution. I just don't think they're going to say that. They're going to stick to the same procedural crap all these other judges have said, where they're going to say, well, you know, this was originally brought against a corporation and you're not able to represent the corporation, so get the hell out of here. Something like that seems like what they're pretty darn likely to say. We just have to see. There was a notice here on the docket earlier that said, yes, it's been submitted. So I don't know, maybe they'll decide something today. But you know, when I spoke to the clerk this morning, I said, so, I mean, what does that mean? Will they decide today? And she says, it means it's being submitted today. And I asked her if they've already decided. And she said, it means it's being submitted today and they will decide sometime after today. And I said, so, okay, I mean, does that mean a week, a year? She literally said, it could be a year. It could be 2 years. Literally. There's nothing you can do about it. It's at their discretion. That doesn't seem fair either. It should be like 30 days to decide, or else something happens. And if these courts can't do that, like, what the hell are they doing exactly? You want to talk about a Department of Government efficiency? Nothing moves efficiently in the courthouse. You know, this is like it could affect your life, and it's less efficient than the DMV. It does affect your life. It's all it does is affect your life. Frankly, dealing with the courts, it's like the most full contact aspect of government anybody ever gets involved with. I mean, you go your whole entire life without ever once going to Congress or dealing with the executive branch or anything like that. But court is sort of something that everybody at one point or another kind of needs to interact with. And it really needs to be fair and transparent, and it is neither of those things. You know, anybody who ever tells you, oh, well, you know, this came out of a court case, so it must be this or that, I don't think they've ever been to court. All right, so back to the Finest Unfiltered podcast I was listening to this morning. Those guys were really on top of it, you know. It's one of these things that the more I listen to it, the more I respect John and Eric. And you know what? Some people tell me, I don't know, these guys, they talk like they're on a Sopranos episode or they're in Goodfellas or something like that. That's a New York thing that I don't know what to say about that. Some people say that about me. This is the way people talk. So, see, you know what? In New York, I think sometimes people might hear somebody with a Southern accent and come to some presumption about it or whatever. You got to cut through that. Because if you're not familiar with a particular type of accent, or you have some, you know, prejudice about people from New York or people from the South or whatever accent we're talking about, those guys know a lot of stuff. I'm not just talking about inside information about whatever is or isn't going on with Eric Adams. In other words, they were describing details from this new lawsuit that was just filed Saturday that I'm very interested in. This lawsuit, it's called, what is it? I think it's called Seidman. I posted it on crowdsourcethetruth.org, where I have a lot of lawsuits and things posted now that people can go to and look at. I try to make it a resource. Yeah, Seidman, et al. It was him and his partner versus the city and the cops. These are two former NYPD detectives who are now part of the Department of Investigation, who they are saying they experienced religious discrimination and all kinds of retaliation when they did this investigation, which is that's what they are assigned to do. It wasn't like they were doing something outside of their mandate. This is the Department of Investigation. And I didn't really know what the Department of Investigation was. I mean, you hear that and it's like, okay, obviously they're investigating something, but what is it? So here, I just looked it up. And I mean, the logo looks like NYPD, but no, it's different. It's an independent thing. This is supposed to be the Office of Inspector General of the entire city of New York. So this thing, it's not the Internal Affairs Bureau. This is not just investigating the cops. This is to investigate the mayor or any top level. It started in the 1870s, and this was, top level officials who were stealing tax money and, whatever from the city coffers. So this is supposed to be an independent body, above the mayor and whoever. This is almost like a special counsel at the city level. Oh, we're running out of data. But the failover system should deal with that. We'll see. All these various problems I can run into while broadcasting. Look, here's a dog. It is a little bit cold today, and if you're a skinny dog, you need an outfit like that. Looks a little silly, but it's still funny. Anyway, these two cops, former detectives in the Department of Investigation, they were investigating corruption at the top of the NYPD and at the mayor's office. And what Eric and John on the Finest Unfiltered podcast, what they are able to break down is, and I'm not going to do it justice, people should go listen to them and hear what they said today, but they know the different positions where, like, this is appointed by the mayor, so that can be corrupted. They were pointing out which sort of positions within the cops or within this Department of Investigation should be elected rather than appointed by the mayor, and pointing out, like, hey, you know what? If they only staffed this with retired police officers, then those guys would already have their pension. The way I understand it, and again, I'm probably not doing it justice, but the idea is, when you've been in the police for, let's say, 15, 18 years or whatever it is, and there's 2 years left for you to get this lifelong pension, there's so much money there that, people in that position are very susceptible to being sort of nudged one way or another. Whereas if you're a year away from getting a lifelong pension and you're afraid that exposing the mayor or the police commissioner or whatever is going to get you fired so that you never get your pension, maybe you're not going to do that. Whereas if you're already retired and you already have the pension and the people you're investigating have no ability to impact you financially, I mean, that made a lot of sense, and that's not something I would ever be able to think of. So it's incredibly valuable to have these ex-police officers who understand the details of this system to be able to go through it and explain how it should be corrected. This is super non sequitur and will annoy people who don't like ADD, but this is the original spot for the Blue Man Group, which I read somewhere is ending. So if you want to see, it used to be called Blue Man Group Tubes, and there was a series of tubes in there, kind of like what George Bush thought the internet was, that you could, I don't know, sound was playing through there or something in these tubes. But it's a sensation according to this. They have their garbage outside. That's the future of garbage according to the Blue Man. So yeah, those guys were talking about this Seidman lawsuit, but I mean, it's an interesting lawsuit because this is two former NYPD detectives. They've faced brutal retaliation, including rats, people calling them rats for reporting criminal corruption. One investigation involved allegations that clubs in Midtown and Queens were paying the cops and their associates for special treatment. This goes to that other guy who said that he was getting shaken down, extorted by Ed Caban, who was the police commissioner, and his brother, telling them they needed to hire private security from companies these douchebags controlled. Seems incredibly similar to what happened to me outside of Twitter, November 1st, 2022. And then remember, that was a lieutenant who showed up. And this thing was saying that, various police lieutenants have had their phones seized by federal investigators as part of the investigation into whatever these lawsuits are alleging. That guy who owns the juice bar, remember, Sal told us, that guy has already been to the grand jury, according to his own testimony. I think you're not supposed to say that, but if he did, he did. That was Starbucks, out of business now. Maybe from allowing too many homeless people to sleep in there. They love that. Let every stinky homeless person lock themselves in the bathroom for hours. Now, also, this is new, Wegmans. I think this used to be Kmart. Wegmans is a super fancy, I think they pride themselves on being better than Whole Foods. Oh, look, 33 grams of protein. I haven't been in there. This is too far from my apartment to go shopping. But if you live around here, you've got access to this lovely Wegmans. So Sal says that guy has told the grand jury that he was getting shaken down by Ed Caban and police lieutenants. I get choked outside of Twitter trying to tell Elon Musk that the FBI controls Twitter while Jim Baker is still the deputy general counsel at Twitter, and only 10 days after he's received an email from George Webb's fucking asshole, mentally ill, wife-swapping paperclip Nazi brother, who's going to go to jail soon in Florida. I'm pretty excited about that. But he's sending emails to Jim Baker saying, hey, Jason Goodman is trying to communicate with Elon Musk, and he's watching the live stream as I'm right there outside of Twitter. If I had used the time shifting function that day, it's amazing how different things would have been, because then those people wouldn't have known who I was. There would have been nobody watching live as I was there. See, it's interesting. But my case, Goodman versus the city of New York, in which I've made all these allegations, that was dismissed 9 days before Eric Adams was indicted. And then after he was indicted, I brought it back on a 59E and 60B, motions seeking relief from that judgment. And then a day or two before this new lawsuit from NYPD detectives drops in New York Superior Court, my judge dismissed my case again. And she says this case remains closed. I just wonder, did she know that this case was going to be filed? I mean, NYPD detectives are, I don't know who the attorney is that they're using. I'm not accusing that attorney of anything, but when you're looking to file a case, does it roll around and do local New York attorneys who deal with cops? Because, by the way, not every type of attorney is taking cases where you're suing the city. It's a specialized area of law, and I find frequently it's former cops who are the attorneys that do that. So is there somewhere in that world, again, I'm not accusing the attorneys representing these cops, but when you're looking for representation, sometimes you talk to a bunch of attorneys before you land on the one you're going to use. Did my judge somehow catch wind that this lawsuit was going to be filed and make sure that she dismissed mine before this one got filed? Did she? Because it sat there for 2 months doing nothing. I filed this in October, sat there for 3 months doing nothing. And then boom, a day before this other one, she dismisses it. Remember, Judge Jessica G.L. Clark, the juvenile Jew-hating jurist who is unfit to serve as a judge and must also be impeached. She worked for Letitia James for 3 years. And I'm not saying, oh, just because they work together, there's an appearance of conflict of interest. I'm saying I accuse my judge of being directly involved in this corruption. I haven't proven that yet, but that's my allegation. She's doing this. Now, what do we got here? This is like a sneaker emporium. Oh, they're just wrapped in plastic. I thought they were all silver or something. So it seems to me, and again, this hasn't been proven, this is my opinion, an opinion I've formed based on looking at public domain evidence. You might look at that evidence and come to a different conclusion, but it's my opinion that Judge Jessica G.L. Clark is directly involved in this citywide and frankly statewide corruption. They spoke about it a lot on the Finest Unfiltered podcast this morning. I like that show because it gives you the police perspective. About somebody who's actively in the NYPD. I'm saying that mindset, right? John and Eric are police. You can fire them if you want, but they're still cops. It's just in them. You can take the guy out of the cops, but you can't take the cop out of the guy. Same with Sal. That's why I like those guys. Those are actually cops, not these idiots. Phones. Not. I don't think a lot. Security stand them. But full signal and I hope not. Are people still with me? It's back. Good. Complete halt. Yeah, okay. So I think I have it pretty well sorted how to recover from that type of failure. Yeah, I mean, I get these reports from the failover system after the show. The other day, it saved 100 and some odd failures. So I think it's working. 100 failures. That's bad. I don't want even one. I think so, Brian. Maybe it's normal radio interference walking around New York City. It's possible. Should I ask this lady who she voted for? I think we know. That woman's going to stand around and tell you that Donald Trump is crazy. This person, too. So anyway, now I just wait and see what they will say about NATAS v. MSDI. You know, this is all shit brought about by Georgia's asshole brother who deserves to go to hell. And hopefully he'll go to jail and then eventually go to that other place. I know he will eventually go to that place. There's nothing he can do to stop that. So whatever he does to me or thinks he's doing to me won't change that outcome. Same thing with Caproni, Weissman, Norm Eisen. They're all going to hell. But yeah, it could take over a year before I learn what happens with NatTest, VMSDI. So that's why all these scumbags, they know if they wind you up, and that's why they delayed the Trump ruling until after he's president so they could continue harassing him then, or try to come up with some new idea between now and then. That's all these guys do. Haven't been over here in quite a while. There's a new thing over there. Rookie, what is that? Sportswear? Rookie USA. Pretty quiet in the park today. It's actually colder than it seems. I didn't wear a hat because I had, prepared to go to court this morning, and then when I spoke to the clerk and she told me definitively you're not going to get to say anything, I recalibrated my plan to do this broadcast here. Yeah, I don't know. It could take quite a while before I hear about what's going to happen in this case. But it's okay, I think I've made the analogy many times before that, lawyering, it's a bit like making movies. And I know I always seem to come back to these everything is like making movies and building 3D cameras analogies, but to be fair to me, I mean, that's what I know. So when I see these similarities, no, wait, this is a new playground. That wasn't there before, I don't think. Right? We had a playground over there. What's going on over there? Park people. Maybe they're rebuilding it. Yeah, it looks like they've got a whole new, this is all new playground. All right. It was a restaurant at one point, but let it be a playground. Let's see, what was I just talking about before I got to that playground? Oh yeah, I always make these analogies to making movies because, see, you could have all the training, go to NYU or USC or UCLA or AFI or whatever. You get the best camera and hire the best editor and all the actors and special effects and everything. But that doesn't mean you're going to write and create a good movie. You need a director with vision and writing that's good, and everything about it has to come together, be well thought through, or it's going to fail. And I think the same thing is true with the law. If you just hire any old person who's graduated from film school to write and direct and produce a movie, it's more likely than not going to suck. Think about how many movies get made and how many of them are crappy and how many of them become, The Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi, whichever was your favorite. We can see they can, no difficulty in making a ton of crappy Star Wars movies, but making something really super excellent, sometimes it happens, once in a lifetime. So, I mean, I've had a lot of like Superman 4 type lawsuits where maybe some of the stuff seemed okay on paper. What is this? Mini Baloo, soft, delicious, Italian baked. So what is that? How can that be a store? People are going to eat enough of those for that to stay in business? I don't know. This place was selling, I think, chickens. And they couldn't even sell enough chickens to stay in business. People definitely need more chickens than they do custard hot dogs. But I mean, I need a way to resolve all this. It seems like, this NATAS VMSDI, it's close to the Force Awakens, like kind of not going to be able to do too many more of these and have it be anything. We'll see. I just can't let this injustice stand. I mean, we're at a point now where 8 years, Caproni is retiring. We can't let that fat bitch get away with it. She's got to be prosecuted. Lifelong career of criminal activity. Those accusations don't come from me. That's from the Democrats in the House Judiciary Committee in Congress. John Conyers said she was a criminal, that she had violated the law thousands of times and somebody needed to be prosecuted. It never happened. They just stuck Andrew Weissman in there, had him go ahead violating the law same way. That's what gave rise to Jack Smith. We're just going to have more of these people. I totally applaud what Trump is doing, firing these FBI people, firing these prosecutors at the DOJ. They should be prosecuted themselves. And it's not revenge. It's justice. I love it. I see a lot of January 6 people on X coming forward saying, oh, here's my prosecutor, they did this or that. Absolutely, now is the time. Lay all that out. We got a little construction project happening here. It smells like tar. Cablecom, what a mess. That's the best they can do. So what do people think about all this? This is hardcore lawfare. It's like placing bets in the rigged casino. You're just not going to win. But in this case, we have no choice because this casino controls access to justice. It is a really serious deal. Judges that are found to be violating their judicial mandate should be treated as harshly as murderers, in my opinion. Chicky Rogue says Trump has no choice. What do you mean, Chicky, about doing all this stuff with the FBI? Right, let all the Norm Isons shriek and cry that this is illegal. Bring your lawsuits. Let Trump fight the lawsuits. This is what Joe Biden did, didn't he? He was like, oh, only Congress can rescind these student loan payments? I don't care, I'm going to do it anyway. How is what Trump is doing any different than that? I didn't hear any of these Democrat schmucks saying anything when that happened. Nate is right. What they did to the January 6 people was totally corrupt and illegal. They've ruined lives. You see all these 30-year-old pretty girls who are the prosecutors, and they're like, oh, we followed the law. It's like, guess what, bitch? You're going to become somebody's property in prison, and you're going to have a new understanding for justice. When I say these people need to be made examples of, I'm not saying do anything outside of the law. I'm saying they need to be made examples of by being punished as harshly as the law will allow, so that anybody else who sits in that prosecutor's seat knows you better not. You're playing with fire if you're going to violate somebody's rights. This goes back to what John and Eric were discussing this morning. Again, from the cop point of view, those guys had stories that I wasn't even familiar with, like the 30-30 scandal or something like that. They were talking a lot about Frank Serpico, who I've heard about. Obviously, I saw that movie. All that business with Frank Serpico was going down when I was a baby. But they did make an Al Pacino movie about it, and everybody knows. It was kind of one of the most famous cases of exposing police corruption. And I don't know enough of the details to comment. I mean, other than watching the movie, I really don't know anything about it. Serpico is still alive as far as I know, but I don't think he likes to talk to people too much. Lee Stranahan has interviewed him, but he's not like on every podcast in the world. What John and Eric were saying, maybe this is right, is that Serpico was dealing with corruption in the lower levels, officers and stuff like that. Maybe sergeants, lieutenants, I don't know. And they're saying that the difference now is this is corruption all the way at the very top. The chiefs, chief of department, the commissioner, the mayor. That's a big deal. I find it hard to imagine that low-level corruption could exist without corruption at the top. Maybe it could. Maybe the guys in the 70s were better at hiding it, I think Eric Adams might have observed this corruption and figured I could do that, but he's kind of stupid, so maybe he's not doing it as adeptly as the 70s corrupt guys did. I don't know. But John and Eric basically said this is so much worse than what was happening in the days of Serpico. You know what? They could well be right, because they were citing certain department changes that were made as a result of all that business with Frank Serpico. It's quite a jacket, isn't it? That's good if you own the tile store. They were saying there were various changes that had been made as a result of what happened to Frank Serpico that were effective to a certain extent and prevented that kind of corruption. But in other words, and people should definitely listen to the Finest Unfiltered podcast. I don't want to misquote them, but what I understood they were saying is like the Department of Investigation, it's basically appointed by the mayor. So if the mayor is the guy doing the corruption, he could easily appoint corrupt people to investigate that. And so they were calling for various positions to be elected. I thought I heard Eric say that he wanted to restructure the police department so that there were actually sheriffs who were in charge of some aspect. I mean, that might make sense. Make it more like in Vegas, we've got a sheriff who is, I don't know, maybe he's the commissioner or the chief of police. Not that Vegas isn't corrupt, but this notion that you'd have elected people, like maybe Eric Dim could run for sheriff, and then suddenly you'd have this guy who was, politically ousted from the police, but because his integrity and his message rise above whatever, and he can get people to vote for him. I mean, that would be one way that we, the people, could bust corruption by getting honest people elected to positions where they could fight these dishonest guys. Like, why do we trust the mayor to just appoint everybody? Then they investigate him. I mean, this is obviously permeated through the entire state. So now we've got Letitia James and Andrew Cuomo being sort of bandied about as possible candidates for mayor of New York City. How is that going to help? They're part of this corruption from way back, obviously. Letitia James seems to have her person in court in the form of Jessica G.L. Clark, making sure that no pesky cases like mine pop up with evidence. Now, the last thing I want to talk about with regard to my case is Elon Musk. Everybody loves Elon Musk. He's doing all this great stuff with Doge. That is good. Seems to be good. But we got this big problem with Eric Adams being represented by Alex Spiro. Okay? But it's not just Alex Spiro, because he's going to court. So he's got like 3 lawyers there. So loud. Eric Adams has something like 3 lawyers from Quinn Emanuel, each of them over $1,000 an hour, spending hours and hours each day press conferences, court appearances, letters, briefs, filings, all kinds. How does Eric Adams afford that? Where does that money come from? He's paid $238,000 as the mayor. I mean, does he have a rich uncle? Who is paying that damn bill? Because remember, we were talking to Sal and to Charles Ortel about the fact that Alex Spiro joined the board of this Turkish ride-sharing app, ride-hailing app, whatever it is, Marty Technologies. So weird. That thing is losing millions of dollars. The stock is like $2 or $3. It's an absolute turd. But yet this high-profile multimillionaire lawyer joins the board. Why? Is it some kind of cutting-edge breakthrough company? I don't think so. Today, any kind of investor would tell you that if it's not generative AI or something supporting that, that's not cutting edge or breakthrough technology. Ride sharing app sounds like 15 years old. Maybe if Uber was hot right now and about to do their IPO, that might make sense. Uh-oh. Did we freeze again? What happened? Oh, it seems back. Good. It just fixed itself. Pretty robust. Oh boy, that guy's having a rough day. I don't know, the only thing I can think of is that somehow this Turkish ride-sharing app, you know, you're going to get paid money to be on the board of directors, right? So what is that? Is that $1 million? $5 million? 100,000? I don't know. But somebody's got to be paying this big bill to Alex Spiro and Quinn Emanuel. The turkeys in Turkey seem to be sending a lot of money to Eric Adams for what? What reason? Is it just that building, which Tucker Carlson says, oh, this indictment is ridiculous? Tucker Carlson knows nothing about this. Or either that or he knows everything about it and he's covering for Eric Adams. But this is really a seriously huge problem. They don't want me opening my mouth in that courtroom, I can tell you, because lawyer or not, my mouth is pretty big, and the words that come out of it are difficult to suppress for a lot of people. They hate them. So they get mentally ill, decrepit losers like George's pathetic brother. He's a disgrace to the U.S. military. Everything he does goes against the Constitution. This is why I say he's a Nazi. In addition to it being incredibly likely that their father was a recipient of the benefits of Operation Paperclip, I can think of no other explanation as to why he was never able to monetize the full duplex radio telephone and why his mentally ill son, who's one of the most litigious idiots ever to be placed on earth, never once sued Motorola. Why not? Why does he spend years suing me, who has virtually no money, but he doesn't pursue Motorola, who appears to have infringed on his father's patent? It's because everything those paperclip Nazis did after World War II became property of the U.S. government. See, over here, there's definitely some radio business going on that the phone doesn't like. But this is what I wanted to share with everybody for today. We've got very serious corruption happening in the Southern District of New York and throughout New York State. That's what allowed Trump to be prosecuted and put on trial, presided over by Juan Merchan. All of this needs to be cleared out if we're going to get back to a country run by the people, for the people, of the people. Oh yeah, here's that bookmobile from the library. It's pretty sketchy. But whatever, read a book. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please become a sponsor. You've still got about a week that you can do that on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth using your regular credit card. It's going to go to crypto or some sort of a system. See, here's another issue. This is the same Whole Foods that wouldn't allow you in there without a piece of paper over your face not long ago. Now you can, stockpile garbage outside the front of it, and it's somebody's immutable right to do that. Can't say anything to that person. Please also become a sponsor on Substack, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Now we need to wait a day, a month,